Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions for all your video production needs and a whole lot more. Believe me, go see my friend Jeremy Wood at Cinematic Visions. He's a great guy. You'll hear his commercial coming up, and you'll get the contact information and everything like that. But just a wonderful guy who will care for you, give a personal touch in any project that you want, from social media to video production and on and on and on. Go see Jeremy at Cinematic Visions, and Cinematic Visions on this particular day, sponsoring Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, and a great conversation with Roger Bennett. If you listen to this Reasonably Irreverent podcast, you know that most of my personal interviews are long form. Well, Roger Bennett has a book out called Reborn in the USA, and the man who is half of the Men in Blazers duo is a very popular and very, very in-demand guy. So actually, I was only supposed to get 10 minutes with him, but I got 15 instead, and we packed a lot in, and he's just a fun guy. And if you've developed into a soccer fan over the last 10 years, as I have, probably a big part of your increased enjoyment is the comedy stylings of he and his friend Michael Davies, who produced originally the Men in Blazers podcast. It turned into a TV show on NBCSN. And the thing about it is, it's such a British show, from the Premier League highlights that they do, to the backdrop, to the pies that they eat at the end, the humor, everything else. And what is amazing is that Roger Bennett's book is Reborn in the USA, and it's all about the fact that a young man who grew up in Liverpool under circumstances he didn't very much like, in a time when Liverpool was rather a drab place, dreamed of coming to America and pop culture and all the things that actually are infused in the Men in Blazers show as well. And this book is absolutely a fantastic ride, and it sort of ends up with him becoming an American citizen, which he is now, became an American citizen in 2018, and his path to there, and much of it focusing on a couple of years of his teenage life when he came to America for the first time and discovered that he indeed liked all the things American that he had dreamed about. And it's a very, very fascinating coming-of-age story, and it's a very, very fascinating and enjoyable and, of course, funny conversation that we have next with Roger Bennett about his book, Reborn in the USA. It's our Reasonably Irreverent podcast on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, right here, and it's brought to you by Cinematic Visions.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Time to spend a few minutes with my good friend Jeff Dillon from Dillon's Heating and Cooling. And Jeff, what differentiates your company from others in the industry?
Plain and simple, we're honest. We have integrity, and we're going to do things right the first time. There's way too many companies out there that lie, cheat, hide things from the homeowner or customer, and we're not about that. It's kind of funny sometimes. I actually am so honest with some people, it kind of surprises them. But sometimes it's good for business, sometimes it's bad for business. But ultimately, it's the kind of business that I want to run, is an honest one.
And that family way of treating things is part of your slogan, and it's also part of one of your great features that you offer to customers.
Our slogan is like family. Our most popular maintenance plan is called the Family Plan. It's very similar to a lot of ones out there. The little tweak that we do to ours, 1% off for every 2 years. They have a continued maintenance plan with us. If they have a maintenance plan for 10 years, then we give them 5% off, no questions asked.
You can find out more about Dillon's Heating and Cooling and all their great range of services at dillonsheatingandcooling.com. That's Dillon's with an S. The phone number, 913-214-1343. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. It's a fantastic pleasure to welcome to the podcast Roger Bennett. He is the author of the now #1 New York Times hardcover nonfiction bestseller Reborn in the USA, An Englishman's Love Letter to His Chosen Home. It is a fantastic book. It is an unbelievably fun read. I don't have much time in my life, and I still gobbled it up in just a few days. And we also, in at least one way, are kindred spirits in the fact that we both have a passion for the movie Diner. And actually, as we speak, when we're taping this, today is Fenwick's birthday, Kevin Bacon.
Good Lord, what a remarkable American he is. Danny, it's wonderful to be with you. Yes, I used to watch Diner and just want that kind of fraternity, that kind of friendship, that kind of repartee. Wanted to be a raconteur. It was one of many, many American television shows, movies, books, bands, sports teams. God love the Chicago Bears, Run DMC, John Hughes movies, Tracy Chapman, that illuminated my life as a kid growing up in Liverpool in the 1980s, a great city, but one that was in terrible economic, political decline as the north of England went to rot in the 1980s. The coal pit shut, the steel mills, the cotton mills. If you've seen Billy Elliot, you kind of get the picture of what life was like. It was very dark, and I managed to survive by inhaling everything American. It was a light in the darkness, told me life could be lived with courage, with possibility, with different sets of wonder. And really, I told myself I was an American trapped in an English boy's body. And the book is the story of how I went from that, the American idea that's so powerful around the world, to making that true by becoming an American. And it's really a love letter to that. I think a love letter our nation probably needs right now, of just how remarkable a role the nation plays in the imaginations of the world.
The coronavirus obviously has impacted us in so many negative ways and still does to right now. But in sometimes it creates the time and the opportunity and perhaps the inspiration to do something you might otherwise not have done. Is that the case as far as this project is concerned?
I cover sports and I live in New York, and at the beginning of the pandemic, the city that I love, that as a kid I painted on my bedroom wall a crude manifestation of the Manhattan skyline. I ended up moving here to that very city. So to see that city I love overwhelmed by the pandemic as it was at the outset, it was terribly dark, it was terribly challenging. And when the present is one of fear and chaos, I think it's a natural human emotion to revert to joyous times in the past. And when sport stopped, the whole structure of my life somewhat fell apart, and I filled it by going through every enchanted wonder, Miami Vice, Cheers, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Heart to Heart, Pretty in Pink, and exploring the impact each had on my life, my identity, how I saw myself, how I saw the world. And I wanted to retrace my steps, almost like the breadcrumbs through an enchanted forest, to paint a picture for Americans of how you can end up from being a Liverpool kid who dreamt of America to a courtroom in 2018 with 162 fellow newly minted Americans saying the oath of allegiance, the greatest day of my life. And when you speak to these human beings from 42 different countries, and we shared our stories, and you realize these people had survived civil wars, famine, conflicts, worse. Many had walked huge distances to be there. And the one thing we shared was the idea of America. It had given all of us in different ways, when we needed it, courage, confidence, hope, joy, a sense of possibility. It's the most powerful gift in the world. And ultimately, this book is holding up for Americans, many of whom were born here, and I think take it all a bit for granted, what the idea of America, how powerful it is, how powerful it can be, how powerful it was for me and millions around the world.
When you went through this period and reading Rolling Stone magazine and inculcating all of these particular influences, the music and everything that you mentioned, eventually that would lead to the fact that you would meet your American twin in Liverpool, and then eventually would make a trip to Chicago. Those couple of years of your life are a keynote and make up much of this book, and very impactful to you. But I was wondering, go through that period right there where you met that American and then went and visited him in Chicago, and your initial impressions of the country that you had dreamed about so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an insane story. My great-grandfather left Ukraine. He was a butcher, headed to Chicago in his mind, the hog capital of the world, and he made a fatal mistake. When the boat docked in Liverpool to refuel, he saw the one tall building on the Liverpool skyline and got off thinking he was in New York and ended up stranding us in northwest England. So when things were dark, my grandfather, his son, who I was very close with, he'd always say to me, we should have been there. We should have been in America. So I did believe like my destiny was America. And then just randomly, by chance one day, when I was at the height of my love of all things American, I met a Chicagoan who'd come to Liverpool to visit a distant cousin. And, I became tight friends with him. I showed him my world. I took him to Everton Football Club. I took him to see everything that the city had to offer. And we became pen pals. We wrote for a year through the Chicago Bears Super Bowl winning year. And at the end of that year, he invited me to spend the summer at his home in the North Shore of Chicago, where John Hughes shot his movies. Shout out to Glencoe. And it was the greatest summer of my life. When Ferris Bueller came out, it seemed like a documentary of my time there, sitting in the Chicago Cubs bleachers, going to the Art Institute, inhaling deep dish pizza, ribs, malted milkshakes. And the most dominant experience was meeting the Chicago Bears. I went to meet them late at night when they arrived back from a game at 4 a.m. in the morning at O'Hare Airport. And I met my heroes. I met Walter Payton, the legend, the sweetest man in the world. And I met William Refrigerator Perry, who was the face of the team, Carnival, larger-than-life figure. And he put his arm around me. 15-year-old me whispered into my ear, "Dream big dreams, kid." I did. You can too. And that's the kind of cliche now. I work in sports. I know all athletes throw out to kids they want to get away from. But back then, it sounded to me as if the fridge himself was telling me to move to America. So in many ways, it's William Refrigerator Perry who changed my life.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. We're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn for the 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you so much for supporting local restaurants, especially through this pandemic. And you know what? We're almost through it. At the 23rd Street Brewery, we have brought in a few more tables. You can wear a mask if you want, or not. It's your choice. Other than that, we're open 11:30 every single day. So come see us at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
Let's have a brief conversation with David Schmidt from Pro Millennial. David, what differentiates you from other financial organizations?
I would say the passion we have for seeing our clients succeed is probably paramount to what we do here. There's no joy greater than watching a client accumulate wealth. I had a client that I've had for many years was able to buy his dream warehouse. Nothing too extravagant, but we had a savings plan in place and was able to see him fulfill his dreams.
And what else motivates you in this industry?
Well, lately it's been finding out inconsistencies in the marketplace, ferreting out some more than questionable ideas out there that what we're seeing with Bitcoin and a few of these other cryptocurrencies right now. I'm in the opinion where if it's untraceable, it really needs to be regulated in a big way right now.
To get more information and advice from David, visit promillennial.com or call 816-221-7775. That's 816-221-7775.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
At the end of that trip, you went on a bit of a binge buy. And a local note here, you were buying pennants, and the guy in the store was wondering why you were buying pennants of competing and rival teams like the White Sox and Cubs, including Kansas State and Kansas in this area. So you're just buying everything in sight to put on your wall, right?
Yeah, and when people see my bedroom, when Americans see my bedroom, my child bedroom, their first instinct is like, how can you have Chicago White Sox and Chicago Cubs and St. Louis Cardinals and Kansas State? And it's just from afar. It all just screamed one thing to me, and that was just America and courage, and I loved it all. And that's how I lived until I made good. I listened to Run DMC. Their fire hose mouths saying, make your dreams come true with your words, which I did. I wanted to back up my words, not just talk about America, but live here. I saw Tracy Chapman. She really influenced my life with her message of stoicism and willingness to make big changes and get out if you didn't like your situation. And I moved here at the earliest opportunity, and I have all of these individual pieces from Don Johnson in Miami Vice, just the singular self-confidence, through to Molly Ringwald in every John Hughes movie. All of them together, just like every sports team, just gave me the courage to act and not just be a person who talked, and to make this dream come true.
You touched on it earlier. You have written and wrote in this and spoken about in interviews that you consider becoming an American citizen the greatest achievement of your life. That happened in 2018. Just describe again the feelings that brought out in you.
My great-grandfather had dreamt of moving to America. My grandfather flew over here at every single opportunity. In the days before direct flights, you get on a flight that would land in Iceland and Greenland and somewhere off Canada to refuel. And I brought in my pocket, to become an American, I brought his wedding ring. I brought the plastic Statue of Liberty that he had on his mantelpiece that he'd often stare at in his greatest ruminations. I brought a William Refrigerator Perry rookie card. I brought pieces of each of the parts of the dream that I'd made as I made that dream real. And I wake up every single morning, even in the darkness of the pandemic. I thank God that I'm married to my wife. I thank God that I live in this country. And the journey that I've made here is something I will never, ever take for granted. Obviously, my childhood dream was a dream. The American reality as a grown-up is very different. But I am madly in love with this country and wanted to write a love letter at a time when I felt the country really needed one. And like any love, anyone who's in a love relationship, love is something you have to work at. It's something you have to work incredibly hard at. It's never something you can take for granted. And the epigraph of the book is the great poet, the great American poet Langston Hughes, who wrote, "Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be." And I believe that absolutely deeply and offer this book in that humble spirit.
To that end, you have raised 4 children in this country. What has it been like for you having them grow up in the country that you yearn to come to so much?
Every morning I come down to breakfast and have 4 kids all having American accents, and I'll be honest, I always cracks every morning. It cracks me up and it reignites that sense of wonder. My life has been an incredible journey. I did take action. I feel incredibly blessed to be here, and what it does instantly every day, I start off with that reinforcing sense of how I will never take this for granted, and that sense of being in that courtroom, becoming an American, and feeling reignited by the power of the American idea, which is a central idea of my life. I've shaped my life absolutely around it. I know from becoming an American, the whole courtroom crackle with that. And I know there's millions of people around the world who look to this country for that feeling. The last line of the book is a friend of mine in London at the end of last year, a telephone conversation, where he said to me, "You need to understand the whole world feels better when we can dream about America. No country's perfect, but it's the best dream that the world has, and I couldn't agree more.
And finally, our guest is Roger Bennett. His book is Reborn in the USA, #1 bestseller in New York Times, An Englishman's Love Letter to His Chosen Home. Any hope for Everton this year to have a fine season?
Every year, there's always hope. That's the joy of sports, is that I'm a Chicago Bears fan too, so all Bears fans will know you reinvent the case for hope at the beginning of every season. Look, England, 55 years of hurt, of agony, of trauma, of self-sabotage. They have made it to the final of the Euros, and if they can do that, they're the New York Knicks of global football, then anything is possible.
And finally, how can people access the book? I'm sure all the usual ways. It's a fantastic book. I can highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of pathos. It's beautifully written, and anybody who likes Roger's work will certainly not be surprised by that. But how do people get access to the book?
You can buy it wherever you access your books. I also taped a audio version, which was exhausting to tape, but it's quite beautiful. And I just say support your indie bookstores, America. They need it incredibly badly right now. But thank you for your support of this book. Just seeing it rise to the extent it has is one of the most humbling experiences of my life, Danny.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.